Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm going to be answering comments, part 3. So we're going to start off with quite a doozy here, a very controversial one I think maybe, hopefully not, but it might be. So here's the first comment, and it's not the comment itself that's controversial, but how I'm going to answer it. So here we go. I think that the Abrahamic concept of soul will go in sync with the Hindu concept of Jivatman, which constitutes subtle and casual body, but still physical in nature, which takes birth in physical body, not the Atman. The thing about, I guess, religious people and religion, and also how I think how, at least I understand how Hinduism is defined, is that, let's see here, let's erase that. So let's actually get a little bit brighter colored pen here. Yeah, red is good. Okay, so oops, is right. So how I at least understand Hinduism or Advaita Vedanta with Brahman. Um, so they say, at least from my understanding again, is that Hinduism or no, Brahman, right? So from my understanding for all the swamis and gurus is that Brahman is basically, again, everything not limited by anything. It's infinite and never limited. So in religion and like Christianity and all that, they obviously they believe that their religion's the correct religion and there's no other correct religion out there. But I mean, they've been getting pretty progressive in terms of they accept other religion, but they still think that they're the right religion out there, and they believe that they have to convert you so that you can be saved. So, and how this is from my understanding is that Hinduism, the reason why Hinduism is acceptance of other religion is because say Christian, just CHR, and then Catholic, and they say Islam and Buddhism, and just say even just some random religion, say Pastafarian, I guess. So each of them have this god that they believe in, like a god, a god, and a god, and again, from what I'm understanding of Buddhism, there's maybe a certain part that believe that Buddha is a god, or and there's some parts where they said no, he's an enlightened being, and then Pastafarian as well. The thing about Hinduism is the fact that this god is a path to Brahman. So that's the reason why in Hinduism there's what is it, 330 million gods. It's because everyone creates their own what is that called? I can't remember what it's called. They create their own god because people tend to relate to gods that are related to them very easily, and it makes it easier for them to get past this barrier to understanding the real reality, which is Brahman. That's not the right one. Here it is. It's not Jivatman. Okay, so it's Isvara. Brahman with attribute of Maya, who rules the world, personal god. So basically, like, and basically people who are Christian, the personal god is God. Catholic, it's God as well. Islam is Allah. Buddha, the certain sect I believe is Buddha, and Pastafarian is Spaghetti Monster. So all these religion believes in their own deities or gods, and in Hinduism, all that is acceptable because all of these gods and goddesses, all is a path to Brahman. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, and again, that's the reason why 330 million gods are accepted in Hinduism, because each of those gods leads to the path of, probably can't see that, to all these gods lead the path of Brahman. basically, like so. And I do believe other religions are going to have a hard time with that because, again, they believe that their religion's correct. They believe that their path is the only right path. Other gurus have said this. So now I'm going to give you, I guess, in a sense of their perspective here. Let's see if I can even do this correctly. So now, let's go here. Brahman. So Brahman will say this. Reality and say not reality. So Brahman is all things that's in reality, so all objects but not limited by it, all space but not limited by space, and all of time but not limited by time. Why did I not just, there we go, time. And I assume Brahman would also include things that are of not reality. It's essentially, it's literally everything. But imagine if an alien came down and said there's this religion called 01, which includes all of this, but also has this other thing that is, it's not reality, but it's also not it's not reality, but it's also not reality. So it's not reality and it is reality, but it's something different from all of this right here. Oops. But all of this right here is something different from that, and it's not necessarily another dimension. It's something, let's just say they try to explain to us because of how limited our brain is, we can't comprehend it. It is something that we cannot comprehend. It's not reality. It is reality. It is not reality. It is not a dimension, but it is a dimension. And it is not limited, but limited. In a sense, just something incomprehensible. And the alien says that, well, yeah, your Brahman is one path to this 01 way of life. And this, what they follow is just say is 1-1, and this leads up to 0-1 as well. So this Brahman that you believe is like, it's like Christian believing in their God, but it's a step up from that. Like how say Christian's God here is part of the path to Brahman, according at least again as far as I understand from Hinduism. So Christian God, Buddha, if you believe Buddha to be a god, or the path of Buddha, and then Shiva, Krishna, all these other paths, all leading to Brahman, even including the 330 million other gods out there. And this alien saying, "Oh yeah, this god right here, this god right here, all these are steps to Brahman, which is still a step into 01." So now imagine if an alien comes down and says, "Oh no, you're the path that you're following, or Brahman is, it's just a small path, but the reality is this 01." How would you feel about that? You know, genuinely. And I think that's what maybe a lot of religious people will feel whenever they start hearing like, oh, Hinduism saying that, no, your belief is right. It's just that you're still not quite there. Even if you believe in God, the next step is to see that you are God. I do believe in some Hinduism that you have this Brahmans basically as I, the infinite, me, you, everything. So Brahman, Hinduism, Advaita Vedanta. I'm not sure how Hinduism explains things in terms of like, is it Advaita Vedanta? Is it Veda Vedanta? Is all that Hinduism, or are those separate? So, but basically saying that, the Christian God is just one of the 330 million gods that follows the path to the true reality, which is Brahman. And then all of a sudden, an alien species come over here from this incomprehensible dimension or thing, and says that, oh, you're right, there's just there's one more thing that you follow, which is called 0-1. So again, this is the controversial thing. I'm curious how people are going to take this, but again, and this is the reason why I have a feeling, even though this kind of really way off the question here, or the comment, it's the fact that yes, I do agree with the comments that the Abrahamic concept of soul will go sync with Hinduism. As a matter of fact, everything, I mean, because of how broad and accepting Hinduism is, it's just the fact that it almost doesn't matter what you believe, it's accepted because it's a path to Brahman in a sense. So long, again, assuming that it saying that, you know, the path is fine so long as you're not harming other people. So this is the reason why, yeah, Hinduism is accepting of all religion, all paths, all ways of life, so long, I'm assuming, so long as it doesn't do any harm. But I would assume that these people who believes in this religion would be offended to think that their belief is not the higher power or the higher belief, because they would say that no, this belief is right, this belief is the one true path. But again, that's also in Hinduism, where I'm sure there's some path that says no, that's wrong, this is the right one. So it's kind of like that. I guess that's kind of still part of the fact of Hinduism, I suppose, is the fact that you're going to have people who believe that their path is the right one. And it's kind of like this example with the alien, where they say that, you know, could you imagine if someone, this alien race come up and said, oh no, all Hinduism or Brahmin is accepted, but it's not the full path. You're still missing this one more step. Once you realize Brahmin, you're still not there yet. There's still one more step. I mean, honestly, how would you feel about it if this all of a sudden this all came up and you realize that Brahman is not the ultimate reality, but there's this one more step called 0-1 that is, in fact, well, Brahman is the ultimate reality, but 0-1 is inclusive of the ultimate reality, but there's also this other thing that we cannot comprehend, you know? That's an interesting question. Okay, so I'm gonna pause and look for the next one, and let me know what do you think about that. That's like a very hot topic, I'm sure. Alright, so the next question. I think soul chooses the body, but I could be wrong. I've seen my guru remove the soul from other person's body since the soul's wish was unfulfilled at the time of death, and the soul could not enter another body. I got a theory: the soul roams around until they find a suitable body, as per my experience. There's a concept called astral body where the soul can travel, known as astral travel, which is yet to be explored completely. I could be completely wrong, but I definitely think there's an astral body in which can travel through all the universe. Okay, so I'm not sure what your belief is in terms of Advaita Vedanta or non-duality and duality, and this to me sounds more like, again, I know very little about Buddhism because I'm just barely touching into it, but it sounds very similar to Buddhism in terms of their belief of, is it an Atman? I'm not sure. But here's the understanding that I have. I don't know if I can draw this out necessarily, but what they say basically is this: there's this driving, again, one video, not enough to say this is exactly what they think, but this is how I'm understanding it so far. There is this energy. Once it hits a body, it stays with the body until that body disappears, and once that body disappears, it leaves the body until it finds another object or another person to attach itself to. And then once it attaches itself to that, then it stays with that body, whatever accumulates, and it comes out of that body once the body's done and goes to the next body. So that sounds like what you're talking about, where the soul roams around until they find a suitable body. That's that one video that I watched of Buddhism said. It's one of the very few first ones that I've watched. so this one seems like the soul is something that's separate from everything else. It's definitely not Atman, because again, saying Atman or Brahman, essentially they're the same. It's this unique individual thing that's separate from everything else. Until it finds its next source, it is something separate from everything else. So from what you're saying, it sounds like you're a dualistic point of view, probably more specifically to a Buddhist point of view in terms of this astral body or soul. Um, in a non-dualistic point of view, from my understanding of it, is that once, um, but there is this thing called, what's it? Samskara, which I don't know much about. I've watched one video on that. I still don't quite understand that, especially in a non-dualistic point of view. But they talk about, because again, a non-dualistic point of view would say everything is Brahman. There's nothing separate from it. There's nothing separate from it. So this samskara, this gross body, it's still all Brahman. So there's no point in separating it because it's all the same thing. Your consciousness, your experiences, your karma, all of that's still Brahman. And then there's some people who commented, said, yeah, karma doesn't exist. Maya doesn't exist, and there's some that says, well, it exists, it's just an illusion. But if it doesn't exist separate from Brahman, so therefore it is Brahman itself. Maya is Brahman. So I guess that's a confusing thing to me, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I know a lot of people made comments, and I've read them, but still it doesn't quite formulate. The best example that someone says about dreams, where in your dream you are literally, your mind creates the world, and you are basically the world in a sense in terms of your mind, and yet you cannot control other people, but yet you are those people because your mind created those people. I guess that's the best example I can think of that really makes a lot of sense, but still how people explain it doesn't quite line up with that explanation, because I don't know, just in my brain it just doesn't quite fit quite right. It makes sense to some degree, but it doesn't, the puzzle in my head is not, fitting correctly. So I don't know if you are of a Buddhist follow or a dualistic point of view, but what you're saying sounds very much like a dualist point of view, where the soul is not part of Brahman, it's something separate, and that is something that's solo, that travels. Or maybe you're talking more along the lines of another video that I watch, where if you look at the image of the videos, the thumbnail, you will see a I think it'll have that image, I'm not sure anymore, but it's you'll see a bucket with sun rays going into, like 3 buckets I believe with water in them, and sun rays going to them, where the samskara itself, what gets transferred from body to body, but the pure consciousness is the one that's shining through this body, which I still don't quite understand in a non-dualistic point of view, because there's this, it seems like there's this separation there when there shouldn't be. Anyways, that's it for that question. Moving on. Alright, next comment. Souls are not only in humans but all creatures. So if human population increases, which means some other species are decreasing, the total amount of life on a planet or in the universe never changes. Example, if the life is 100% and there are 100 creatures on the planet, and if there's multiple, and if they multiply to 1,000, which means the 100% life has now been divided into 1,000, but the amount is the same. If the planet gets destroyed and all creatures die, still the amount of souls will remain the same in non-duality, and duality. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting one here. All right. So we have 100. Oops. Let me actually put on marker. All right. So we have 100%, right? Say there is, say this is a soul, or an animal, another animal, another animal, another animal. So since there's 4 animals here, we'll say this has 25%, 25% life, 25% life. My gosh, this is going to take forever. 25% life. So, okay. So these animals have 25% life, right? Now, if these animals were to say multiply, and then they have little babies, right? Or we will say, actually, it's, it won't be like this. It'd be like, say, these 2 will have to multiply, and then they have, say, 4 babies, I guess. And then these 2 will do the same thing. I mean, this is just limited to 4. But say all of a sudden the parents die, and this is all that's left. So this is going to be in how many pieces? 50% divided by 4, which will be It's 12.5%, I believe. 12.5 just across there, and 12.5 across here. Let me make that sure it's a zero, a period there. Sorry, not a zero. 24, 25, and 25. Yeah, okay. So now, what does it mean that how does what does having 25% of all life versus 12.5% of all life even mean? Does this 25% mean they have better life or more life, live longer, or what? Because you did it in a percentage way and saying there's 100 creatures. So again, we're going with a bit of a simpler example where 100% life is divided evenly among 4 creatures, which will be 25%. And then when these 2 creatures meet up and had 4 babies, and just say they die, make it a little bit easier on us. Now each of those babies that are still alive are at 12.5% life, as opposed to what their parents had, which is 25% life. And then say if incest aside, but we'll say from each of these 2 families, they breed with each other. So we have this one with that one, and then they have 4 babies, right? And say the others had 2 or more babies, then, and say the parents are still alive, and then how is that even spread out? So we can even say that they have now maybe say 1% life between all the babies here. So what is, so this percentage of life, what does that mean from what you're trying to explain? Because you said there's was it, if the life is 100% and there are 100 creatures on the planet, and then if they multiply into 1,000, which means 100% life has now been divided into 1,000, but the amount's still the same. Does having this percentages mean anything in terms of quality of life or whatever it may mean? So that's what I'm wondering. But I get what you're saying. It's just a sheer fact. There's I think maybe a better way to explain it. I don't know. If this is what you're getting at, would be to say, there's this thing called life, and every living being grabs a piece of it. There's not a percentage. There's just this thing called life that all life gets from. So there could be 1, or there could be 1,000, or there could be 100,000. It doesn't matter how many there are. It's just they all feed in this life, and we can even actually say this is Brahman, because again, Brahman is not limited by an object or time, space, or anything, and all life pulls from Brahman, and Brahman is unlimited. It's again not limited by anything. So therefore, there could be 100. There could be 100 billion life. It's all pulling from Brahman. Brahman is unlimited. Brahman provides all of this, and therefore it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 1 billion. It's all pulling from Brahman or life. Maybe that's what you were getting at. I'm not sure. Because whenever you say there's 100%, and then you have one person or one being, 100% life, and then there's one being, and which then all of a sudden it has all 100% of that life, because there's no other life on the planet. But then all of a sudden when you have another one, now this becomes 50%, 50, and this has 50%. So what does that happen? What happens to, he used to have 100% of life, now he only has 50% of life? That means a lower quality of life, or what? I'm picking at your answer, but I don't know if you have maybe a deeper meaning to it, or what you're trying to portray out here. So that's why I'm kind of asking here, and with this example. And if only Windows would stop asking me about Windows Update. Okay, so, but I think this is probably what you meant right up here. I'm assuming here is that they're pulling from this thing called life. There's not a limit. There's not 100% of it. It's just, this is life. Everything's pulling from it. There's unlimited of it. There's not a limit. Therefore, there can be between 1 to 100 billion life, and it's still all pulling from life itself. I think maybe that's what you're trying to say. I'm not sure though, but let me know. Alright, we're going to look for the next question. Alright, so the next comment. We have human increasing the same way animals are decreasing. This is, I think, change in souls. Souls in small things can be after. Souls in small things can be after that being death according to its karma, can either transfer in same being or some other being in higher rank than its past. And in this process, soul gains intelligence, and supreme soul may be human being until on earth, and it will remain there until something more supreme comes, like God Avatar, in which all human beings who are eligible according to its karma soul merges and creates one supreme soul, and then and those remains had to restart from zero again. I think this may be the case. There is something big. Wait, there is some big things going on. Okay, so what you said here doesn't sound like Advaita Vedanta, but sounds like another video. Oh, when I read this comment, this is I think my second time reading it in my head, or third time. But I'm just trying to think of a video. I don't remember who said it, but it sounds very much like one of the videos that I reacted to. I can't remember who it was, but it was I think maybe a Buddhist belief. I'm not sure, but there's tiers of karma that they talk about, and how the ultimate goal is to be one with God, but you still have like I think it's Swami Sarvapriyananda. He talked about, I think he was talking about Buddhism. I can't quite remember, but I think it was him talking about it in one of the videos that I reacted to. So if you happen to find that, then man, that is good. But yeah, I think he talked about how there's different tiers and different levels, and how you progress based on your karma. And the ultimate goal of this way of life is being one with, is it Krishna? I can't remember. I'm sorry. Again, I barely touched up on Buddhism, but I think it is the way of Buddhism. Maybe a certain Buddhist way of life, I think. But anyways, so I don't know if this is your belief, because he's saying, I think this is, I think, change in soul. So if you have this belief, are you in the sense of belief of a Buddhist way? Again, I don't know, but it does sound like that based on from what I can remember. But I think Advaita Vedanta doesn't have this tier system. I think, at least I don't think so. And I do believe that when this body dies, our consciousness goes back into Brahman itself. Because again, I mean, technically everything's Brahman, so therefore everything goes back to Brahman anyway. But this tier system reminds me about how, I think it was Swami Sarvapriyananda that said that, the ultimate goal of this way of life is to merge back into God, but there's different tier systems to it. Okay, that's it for that question. All right, next comment. He's talking about subtle body, Shukshma Sarira. I don't think I said it right. Shuksha Sarima here, not about Atman. The subtle body entry exit also occurs in the realm of Maya. So, I guess actually I was thinking about this before I started continuing the recording, but I thought that maybe this might be more of a Buddhist, I believe, a belief, but I don't think it is actually, because I remember another video where they're talking about, it's the buckets one again. That's the thing that I remember so much about that video, is the buckets, and it talks about how I thought it was called samskara. I might be wrong then, but I thought they're talking about samskara, how your samskara is transferred. It's the bucket. It's the water in the bucket. The bucket itself is the body, and the sunlight illuminating is consciousness. So when you die, your samskara, or the water in the bucket, gets poured into another bucket, and that's how your karma and everything kind of follows you. Subtle body, not about Atman, but subtle body entry and exit also occurs in the realms of Maya. So yeah, so the samskara, at least that's what I thought it was called. I could be wrong again, but Shukshma Sarira, is the one that gets transferred from one bucket to the next bucket when that bucket starts to go bad. The bucket's the body, the water is the samskara, and the sunlight that's shining at the bucket, it's the consciousness, the pure consciousness. Okay. I was going to make a statement because of what I thought you were saying. I thought what you were saying was more along the lines of what, from my understanding of Buddhism's way of life, but I don't think so. I think this is actually more along the lines of what you're talking about is the bucket. I do believe from the video that I reacted to, that the subtile body that's being transferred from one body to the next is, I keep saying samskara even though you say something else. Shakshma Sarira, I believe. It's transferred from one body to the next. This bucket of water that's transferring from one bucket to the next bucket as the bucket, you know, decays and ages. It transfers over. Okay, that's that video. I don't know if I even said anything in this entire comment, but that's that comment. Alright, so the next comment. Brahman is omnipotent and limitless. If it really is, then it can manifest its own consciousness. It's kind of weird though for it to say that if it's omnipotent and limitless, then it can manifest its own consciousness. It's kind of weird that you say it didn't have consciousness in the first place. To say that it can manifest, if it really is, then it can manifest its own consciousness. I'm assuming that we'll say that Brahman itself has consciousness. If Brahman has its own, oh, there we go. If Brahman has its own consciousness, then Brahman can become God. Well, well, I guess. I mean, I'm thinking along the lines that it has always been God. It's just because it can do something or can't do something, or how do I say this? It had to already be God in order. It cannot just become God. Like unless something gives it something to become God, it cannot give itself something that it doesn't have. So I believe it has always been God. If Brahman manifests itself in 33 million gods, then that can also be allowed because it is omnipotent. Who are we to oppose it? No. And I think a good explanation for this is actually that I think it makes sense the reason why we have the Hindus have 330 million gods, not 33 million. Just saying what Lakhani said before, and I'm sure there's actually significantly more than that. Is because it does make that makes a lot more sense to me than say one God and how it looks. Because I do believe if God were to communicate with people, it would form itself into a shape or form that's more appealing to you. And there's no one shape or form that appeals to everyone. So it has multiple shapes and multiple forms so that it can appeal to us without us having our mind explode or us being frightened of God. So it makes sense that whenever someone says, "Oh yeah, I saw God. He looks like a lion tiger or something," and then another person, "No, it doesn't. It's like he looks like a elephant giraffe or something like that," you know. Or no, I see it looks like a vase. But it makes sense for God to appear in all these ways. I mean, you look at is it Moses? I haven't listened to a lot of the Christian stuff in a while. The Ten Commandments. I do believe it's Moses. He went up to a hill to wait for, I believe, wait for God's commands, and God appeared to Moses as a burning bush. And well, there you go. That's exactly what. That's the reason why 330 million gods makes sense to me, because God will appear to different people in different ways, even in Abrahamic religions. God, at least in terms of probably Christianity and Catholicism, that God appears in different ways, but the way they explain it actually is that God sends his angels out to appear before you, because if God were to appear in front of you, your head would explode and you'd become non-existent or something like that. That's the reason why God never appears in front of people, because our puny minds cannot handle God itself, so he sends out the angels instead. Or maybe Moses, God appeared, according to the Bible, God appeared, I think it was Moses, as a burning bush. So again, 330 million guys makes absolute sense, because not every there's no one appearance that makes sense to everyone. So therefore, there are many appearances because there's many different people who interpret things differently. That's that for that question. All right, next question, comment. Well, we all know plants have life too, but think it as this way. After cutting a plant, take a part of it and put it into the soil for a few days with proper nourishment. It will grow, live again. Now the challenge is trying to do it with chickens or any other animals. Might be they will live again as per your logic. So, not necessarily so. This is under the assumption that if you believe it's okay to eat things that you can cut and regrow again, and also that's under the assumption that all plants do this. I don't think all plants do this. I don't think you can cut off any particular part of a plant in the ground, and it will automatically grow to a full tree. Many leaves fall in the yard and they don't grow into full trees. So clearly we can't just cut a leaf, plant it on the ground, and it'll grow to a full tree. There are some vegetables I think that do that. Again, I'm not like a farmer or anything, so I wouldn't know which one you can plant on the ground and it'll grow to a full tree. Fruits and stuff, definitely for the most part, in vegetables. So if I don't know if I think so. So basically, fruits depend on animals to eat it whole, including the seeds. Why? Because whenever it comes out, the seeds will hopefully be protected throughout your entire digestive system, and it comes out with fertilizer. Pre-production already, pre-planted, Or even so, I think that when the fruit itself starts to decompose, it becomes again fertilizer as well. So the plant, the fruit, tree, or plant does a pretty good job in terms of how it spreads its seeds. It covers it in what could it use to grow, or it could get an animal to eat it and hopefully move somewhere else and then poop it out, and then therefore it will grow. But there's not very many. I don't know how many, if there's a lot or a little, that you can literally cut any piece of the plant off and plant it. I have a feeling there is no plant out there that you can cut a certain piece and it will always grow. I'm sure there are plants out there, if you cut a certain piece, I'm sorry, I'm saying the same thing over again. I'm sure there are no plants out there that you can cut any piece of it off and plant it separately and it will grow. I'm sure there are plants out there, if you cut a certain piece of it and plant it on the ground, it will grow. So, you have to find those specific plants and cut the specific section at a very specific specific way, and then plant to grow. However, not all plants are like that, so not necessarily a good justification for that. Next thing is to say that chicken or any other animals, try doing that with a chicken or any other animals. So basically, how plants reproduce and how animals reproduce are two different kinds of reproductions. Plants do kind of, for the most part, I think a lot of plants reproduce the same way we do. You have to have, I hear this because I want to do it myself. I want to grow like a orange tree or a apple tree or pear tree, because I want to eat the fruits from that and grow it and watch it grow and take care of it. But the thing is, though, I've heard that you cannot just have one of those trees. You need another tree. You need a different kind of citrus tree. If you grow a apple tree or an orange tree, you need another tree so that they can mate. It's weird to say that. You see two trees just grinding it on the ground in your backyard. It's like, what the heck is going on? But no. But yeah, you need two different trees because I guess certain fruits cannot self-pollinate. Certain plants could self-pollinate because they both have the male and female parts, and I think maybe even the fruit trees have male and female parts, but they cannot self-pollinate, as in even if a bee or birds or whatever goes and covers itself in the pollen and puts it in the right spot, it doesn't work. I think I've heard this because I looked it up. I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that you have to have if you're going to grow a citrus tree, you have to have another type of citrus tree there, and they can cross-pollinate each other, and then they can grow fruits and stuff. But you cannot just have one. So I don't know how true that is, because I personally have not done too much research into that. But I do want to grow fruit trees, and if I were to do it, I want to make sure I do it correctly, because I don't want to grow a fruit tree so big I'm like, why is this tree broken? It's not producing orange. But yeah, I had to do it correctly. So, and then another one would be, imagine if there's an alien species out there who, say, after 10 years splits in half, and then they both grow into their own separate alien species. So this does not reproduce the same way as a animal, where it requires a male and female to inseminate the seed. The seed will grow and then come out as a baby chick. Whereas a plant, you chop off that piece, you plant it on the ground. At least this specific plant, you plant on the ground, like you break off from the original plant to put in another plant, and then it grows. The alien would be the same way, where you literally, after 10 years, then you can cut the alien in half, and the alien will have two separate beings, and there'll be two separate beings, put it that way. When then would you say you can eat that alien, because it doesn't reproduce like animals like we do? It reproduces like the way you saw the plant, where you cut the plant in half, or you cut a certain section of the plant and you plant it on the ground and it grows. This alien just splits in half, and then all of a sudden there's two different aliens. It doesn't reproduce like an animal, where you need to bump and grind and then poop out the baby. Then would you put that in the category of the plant or the animal? Just curious, honestly, because I mean, I'm not saying this alien does exist, but let's say if it does, for example, then how would you categorize that? Would it be like the plant, where you can cut it in half and then it'll grow, or would you categorize it as an animal, but it doesn't reproduce like an animal? Honestly, let me know. I mean, I question your logic, because I want you to think about these things. And honestly, I'm curious about what your answer is, because for me, just how it reproduces doesn't justify whether you can eat or not eat anything, kind of deal. And I'm assuming that's what you're trying to do, is the fact that plants reproduce, or we see plants as something different, but I don't, because it's still a living organism. Just because it doesn't have a brain or a heart doesn't necessarily mean it can't grow, it can't experience things, it doesn't need things. It needs all the things that we need to live. It just might not have a brain. I mean, I think there are certain sea creatures that are kind of like that too, where I don't think they have a brain, but they need to eat, they need to breathe, they grow, I think maybe they feel pain, I'm not sure. I think a jellyfish might be a pretty good example. Again, not studied up on it, but I don't think it has a brain, but it does have a nervous system. Okay, that's it for that comment. Okay, so that's all the comments that I'm going to reply to. It looks like this video is running a little bit long anyway, so if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.